Hello and welcome to episode 178 of the How to Survive podcast.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Joe, and joining me, as ever, is Chris.
Hello.
Ni hao to you.
Ni hao to you too.
That's Mandarin Chinese for hello. Which is topical, because this week's movie is in Mandarin Chinese.
Yes.
It is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
from the year 2000.
Yes.
The turn of the millennium. 1,000 years after the year 1000.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
It's a movie about martial arts.
Yes, and it kicks off martial arts season
Yeah.
here on the How to Survive podcast. As you well know, and as is so obvious from our catalogue of podcasts, we like to stick rigorously to 2-episode seasons of films.
Yeah.
So this week we're covering a modern classic martial arts movie
Yeah.
for martial arts season, which is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And next week we're covering an even more modern classic, The Raid.
An even more modern, even more classic.
Yes.
Yeah, Gareth Evans' The Raid.
Is next week.
Yeah, but this week, let's get down to it. Let's get down to the brass tacks. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, mate. Isn't it?
Sure is.
Director, Ang Lee. You wouldn't like me when I'm Ang Lee.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's a Stuart Lee joke.
It is a Stuart Lee joke.
Yeah.
But it's ironic that he would direct The Hulk, which is where that's from, right?
Yeah. But no, that's what the joke
I know,
is.
yeah, in the context. But
Yeah.
it is also... There's some irony in it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, I guess
maybe.
it's not. It's like Alanis Morissette irony, in as much as like it would only be ironic if Ang Lee was like, I have to direct films where people aren't going to mention how my name sounds like the word Ang.
Right. Yeah. I know. I'll direct the Hulk. You've had 19 years to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and listen to podcasts unmolested by spoilers. But that time is over.
Yeah, that time. Your time is up. We're going to spoil the movie rotten by revealing the key points of the plot in a recap, which will happen after this.
In a land of eternal beauty and infinite mystery, a legend was born. The story of a warrior. The woman he loved. A daring outlaw. And a princess destined to become a warrior.
Chris, a quick plot recap, and I've taken this from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I don't speak Mandarin Chinese.
No, nor do I.
Yeah, so anything we mispronounce, listener, if you do speak it, don't be offended, because we're doing our best.
Yeah, a blanket apology for any mispronunciations that will occur for the duration of this podcast.
Yeah, and the rest of our lives. The film is set in 18th century Qing Dynasty China. Li Mu Bei is an accomplished Wudang swordsman, and Yu Len heads a private security company. Now, these two have feelings for each other, Chris, but they can never be together.
It's
in their eyes.
classic unrequited or star-crossed lovers.
Yeah, basically, I think Mui Bei had a friend who died but was engaged to Shui Len.
Yes, that's
Shui
right.
Len.
Yeah.
And because they were engaged, that means she can never love anyone else, because it's like an honor system.
Well, it's basically like if, you know, when you were engaged to your now wife, if you had died, then despite your wife and I's feelings for one another, we could never act upon it, because to do so would disrespect your memory.
Yeah, it's an honor system, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So Mu Bei, right? Mu Bei, he's retiring from a life of being a warrior.
Yeah, he's like a travelling soldier, isn't he?
Yeah, a mercenary. And he's got this sword called Green Destiny, which is cool. It's a cool name for a sword.
Yeah.
And he's like the best sword in the world. And because he's retiring from being a warrior, he gives it to an old benefactor of his called Sir Tay, who lives in Beijing. By coincidence, Shu Lin is on her way to Beijing to deliver something, and so he says, take this sword with you. I need to go and pay respects to my master's grave.
Mm-hmm.
His master was killed by someone called Jade Fox, a woman who sought to learn Wudang skills, but was rejected because she's a woman.
Yeah.
While at Surtay's place, Shulin makes the acquaintance of Jen Yu, who is the daughter of rich and powerful Governor Yu, and is about to be married.
Yeah.
One evening, a masked thief sneaks into Surtay's estate and steals the Green Destiny.
Yeah, and it's obvious to anyone who's ever seen a film in their life before that it is Jen.
Well, you don't even need to see a film. You can, if you've
Yeah.
seen this film,
a face before,
yeah,
and have the ability of recognizing faces.
she was in the previous scene.
Yes,
It almost like fades across.
yeah. It might as well be the previous
She doesn't need
scene.
the mask.
The previous scene might as well end with that character saying, "Oh, I hope nobody steals it."
Yeah, right. But it doesn't fall. Like, I think Shulin knows instantly who it is.
Yeah, but she doesn't. Later in the film, she says she doesn't want to bring embarrassment to Jen's family.
Yeah, but I mean, she runs into Jen's house.
Yes.
Like, it climbs in Jen's window.
Yeah.
And then they go in Jen's.
She doesn't want to cause embarrassment to Jen's family, but also will administer a savage beating of Jen at the earliest opportunity.
Let's get on with it. Mubei and Shulin trace the theft to Governor Yu's compound, where Jade Fox has been posing as Jen's governess for many years. Mubei makes the acquaintance of Inspector Tsai, a police investigator from the provinces, and his daughter Mei, who have come to Peking in pursuit of the Jade Fox. The Jade Fox challenges the pair to a fight, and Surtay's servant Master Bo also joins the fight. Following a protracted battle, the group is on the verge of defeat when Mubei arrives and outmaneuvers Jade Fox. Before Mubei can kill Jade Fox, the masked thief appears and helps Fox. Fox kills Sai before fleeing with the thief, who is obviously revealed to be Jen. After seeing Jen fight Mubei, Jade Fox realizes that Jen has secretly been studying the Wudang manual and may have surpassed her in combat skills. With me so far, Chris?
Yeah, it's great when he turns up to the battle because it's the first time you see the man that everyone's in awe of in full fighting mode, basically. And it's like in the latter Matrix films when Neo is like
flies in,
operating at twice the speed of everyone else.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's kind of like that, but it's also like he doesn't get to rev his engine properly because he gets like someone else shows up and kicks him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's other fights happening that need to attention, things like that. At night, a desert bandit named Lo breaks into Jen's bedroom and asks her to leave with him. A flashback reveals that in the past, when Governor Yu and his family were travelling in the western deserts, Lo and his bandits had raided Jen's caravan, and Lo had stolen her comb. She pursued him to his desert cave to get her comb back. However, the pair fell passionately in love. Lo eventually convinced Jen to return to her family, though not before telling her of a legend of a man who jumped off a cliff to make his wishes come true. Because the man's heart was pure, he did not die. Lo came to Beijing to persuade Jen not to go through with her arranged marriage. However, Jen refuses to leave with him. Later, Lo interrupts Jen's wedding procession, begging her to leave with him. Nearby, Shulin and Mubei convince Lo to wait for Jen at Mount Wudang, where he will be safe from Jen's family, who are furious with him.
There's a lot of stuff for a film that we're watching essentially because it's got some fighting in it. There's an awful lot of sort of social, hierarchical drama.
Yeah,
isn't there?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, that's you're getting ahead of yourself, Chris. I need to finish the next 2 paragraphs, so we're going to be all right. Jen runs away from her husband on their wedding night before their marriage can be consummated. Disguised in male clothing, she is accosted at an inn by a large group of warriors. Armed with the Green Destiny and her superior combat skills, she emerges victorious.
Mm-hmm.
The best part about that scene is their names. Like, I am the reaching crane.
Yeah.
The Iron Arm was the favourite.
Yeah.
And
he's got like iron bracelets on. Yeah. Jen
visits Shulin, who tells her that Lo is waiting for her at Mount Wudang. After an angry exchange, the two women engage in a duel. Shu Lin is the superior fighter, but Jen wields the green destiny. The sword destroys each weapon that Shu Lin wields until Shu Lin finally manages to defeat Jen with a broken sword.
Am I right in saying that this is the best scene in the movie?
Yeah, by far.
Absolutely amazing.
When Shu Lin shows mercy, Jen cuts Shu Lin's arm. Mu Bei arrives and pursues Jen into a bamboo forest, which is also a good scene. Mu Bei confronts Jen and offers to take her as his student. She arrogantly promises to accept him as her teacher if he can take Green Destiny from her in 3 moves. Mu Bei is able to take the sword in only 1 move, but Jen goes back on her word and flees. Mu Bei decides to throw the sword over a waterfall, and Jen dives into the adjoining river to retrieve the sword and is rescued by Jade Fox. Jade Fox puts Jen into a drugged sleep and places her in a cavern. Mu Bei and Shu Lin discover her there. Fox suddenly reappears and attacks the others with poisoned darts. Mu Bei blocks the needles with his sword and avenges his master's death by mortally wounding Jade Fox, only to realise that one of the darts hit him in the neck. Jade Fox dies, confessing that her goal had been to kill Jen because Jen had hidden the secrets of Wu Dang's best fighting techniques from her. As Jen leaves to prepare an antidote for the poisoned dart, Mu Bei prepares to die. With his last breaths, he finally confesses his love for Shu Lin. He dies in her arms as Jen returns, too late to save him. The Green Destiny is returned to Sir Tay, and Jen later goes to Mount Wu Dang and spends one night with Lo. The next morning, Lo finds Jen standing on a bridge overlooking the edge of the mountain. In an echo of the legend they spoke about earlier in the desert, she asks him to make a wish. He wishes for them to be together again back in the desert, and the movie ends with Jen jumping off the bridge and Lo looking on in despair.
What's your interpretation of the ending?
Well, I struggled to interpret it, and I read an explanation, which I quite like. Obviously, It's very open to interpretation. This is one person.
Okay, well,
the one I've kind of stuck
before
with.
You say that, my interpretation was that essentially that she is going to fly because her heart is pure.
Yeah, I think that's one reading. I think one reading is that. Well, I'll tell you the one I like, right? Because I'll just botch the explanation, and I've actually written it here.
Right.
Jen is heartsick over her freedom and her frenzy, which led her to terrible places. In the end, even though she gets Lo back, even though the back and forth tussle over the fate of the Green Destiny ends with her wearily relinquishing control, even though Li Mu Bei saves her life at the expense of his own, she can't enjoy the peace she's come to. Given the possibility of leaving her family for her lover and enjoying whatever time they have together, she instead finds maturity in self-denial, self-sacrifice, and ancient tradition. And in the film's ending shot, she throws herself from a mountain in the hopes that the purity of her sacrifice will please the gods, who will grant her a wish. So it's like, despite her trying to resist all this stuff, she has to give in to it in the end.
Yeah, I guess my interpretation was that, which is probably not far from what you've just said, was that she, despite being embroiled in all these not evil things, but sort of, being trained by Jade Fox and going off the rails a little bit.
It's selfish, isn't it?
Yeah. Ultimately, her heart is pure, and therefore, according to the legend that Lo spoke about, she will fly because
and she wants to prove that to herself. I think.
Right. But it's like a leap of faith thing. Very cinematic, very rounded end to the story.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit like the ending to Inception. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suppose I guess in some ways you're right. Yeah, I mean the whole story has the feeling of a fable to me.
The dream.
Well, it's like a magical sword, and it's that sort of feeling to me.
So did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I've seen it. I think I've seen it 3 times. Okay, so I saw it once, and it went completely over my head
when you
because
were
I was too young.
Yeah, right. Same. That's the only time I've seen it, in fact.
Right. So I think that time I'd been suckered in by whatever advertising they used. Probably involved from the choreographer of The Matrix,
right, exactly,
or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just, it would have been the absolute pinnacle of skip to the fight scene movie.
I imagine with the trailer, I haven't seen the trailer, but I'm guessing it's going to be very heavy on the fighting.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
not on the like water dancing and love story. Probably.
Yeah. I would imagine so too. I think I watched it again at university or around that time at least, and enjoyed it. And I watched it this time and I think enjoyed it even more, got a bit more out of it. I think that might have been because when I watched it previously, it was, part of my course, probably at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning when most film screenings were, if I remember.
Okay, yeah.
And it might have even been in the first year of my studies, so I was probably hungover.
Yeah.
And a lot of the film would have like glazed over me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think so. I got a lot more out of the sort of nuances of the story in this time round, and I think one thing that stands out to me is that it's a lot funnier than I remembered.
Yeah.
Because I'd always thought of it as like a really sincere film, which it is in parts.
It's very po-faced in parts.
Yes, but the tea house fight scene, for example, and the following scene where Mubai and Shulin talk to the sort of walking wounded that Jen has left.
Yeah.
That is like very funny.
It is, yeah.
Especially as they're saying like, "Oh, we politely asked her."
Yeah.
Right. So there's also like some unintentionally funny bits, I think, which are probably like a cultural distance thing. Like when Mubai says, "My blood will soon reverse its flow."
Yeah,
that made me laugh.
I mean, Ang Lee must know that because he's made a lot of films in the West.
Yeah.
Cross-cultural films are his forte.
Yeah. This is not our usual sort of film, I don't think, by any means.
What do you mean?
As a horror podcast, it's very pretty and very lyrical and has this grand story that I think, as I said, is a sort of fable or would be suited to a sort of fable. Some of the shots are incredible. Like, they have this sort of painterly quality to them.
I think that's like every shot of the film, every frame of painting, right?
Right, yeah. Exactly. There's one shot in particular where I think Mubai is looking out of a window in like a concrete building, and he's looking out into like a bamboo forest or something.
Right, yeah.
And it's like looking at Chow Yun-fat standing in a gallery. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it looks astonishing. And also, I think some of the special effects are slightly, just very slightly aged. Like the gliding across places is particularly when it's like a giant wide shot towards the end, and Mubai and Jen are sort of chasing each other, and they're like skipping over water and all that sort of thing.
I quite like that.
To me, it looks slightly showing its age very slightly, but
because you can kind of like imagine where the wires might be,
right? Or just that they've done it in front of a green screen,
right?
And but that's not to take away from the sort of overall aesthetic of the film, which does have that sort of like. I mean, I obviously there is a huge cultural distance between us and like East Asia, where this film comes from.
Yes,
and I don't want to get too sort of. I don't want to give too much credence to that sort of cultural distance by saying things like, "Oh, it's really dreamlike" or whatever.
Well, no, but I think that's the point of the film,
right?
Right. Let's be clear: neither of us intended to be orientalizing racists in describing this film.
Of course not.
But it is refreshing to see something which is from another culture. Right?
Yes, and I absolutely. But then obviously one has to be quite careful when talking about art from other cultures, that you're not sort of ascribing and ascribing like these grand prejudices or stereotypes to it.
Yeah,
because obviously there is like a sort of I guess stereotype of what Chinese, like ancient Chinese culture, ancient Chinese spirituality involves, including martial arts. And you don't like, for me, and I know for you as well, we don't want to come across like we're sort of.
Oh, right. And if you were a Chinese person watching this film, you would have seen other films like it. This is the first movie I've ever seen like it.
Right.
Especially the types of fighting and these. Like, I've watched martial arts films plenty, as have you. I've never seen ones where they can skip across water or they appear to be lighter than air.
Yeah.
They just don't. That's not a Western thing.
Yeah, and also I think what sets it apart from sort of Western cinema is the fact that it's basically just presented to you with no context. In that, basically, there's nothing in the film necessarily that suggests that people will be able to fly until people are already flying.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in the film after that point where they go, this is why we can fly and this is how you can learn to do it. It's just like, this is a world where people can fly.
Yeah. Well, they're not.
Well, they're like gliding,
yeah,
aren't
yeah.
they? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's genuinely a breathtaking film.
Yes,
like exciting, agile, kinetic.
Yeah,
all words that I use to describe it. And I think, despite the dreamlike fight sequences, the story and its characters are very believable in context. You genuinely feel for them. You think Xu Lin really is pining for Mu Bei.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you want that to work. It's the perfect, like, Ross and Rachel.
Right. Yeah. Well, Romeo and Juliet, or whoever. Right. It's the perfect tragic romance. Right. Yeah. Luke and Lorelei. Yeah.
But
exactly.
For that reason, it's as much a period piece as it is a martial arts film, I think. And before this, Ang Lee made Sense and Sensibility.
Right.
Clearly, he's drawn to telling stories about women trapped in social situations, or people trapped in social situations where they're living lives that are opposed to what they really want. In any case, I think the central performances are all captivating, and you root for all the right things at the right times. And as a story, it's more or less perfect. As a film, I think it is worthy of entry into the Joe Schervel Museum of Film.
Right. Okay.
Perhaps more so than other films that came out that year.
Right.
So, I mean, I often look at the Oscars for the year when we talk about movies.
This won the best foreign language film.
Right, which I think is a very patronising category for the Oscars to have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it basically suggests that anything with a foreign language is therefore unworthy of being Best Picture.
Correct. Well, it's the same with Best Animated Film to some extent as well. But it's also the same with the BAFTAs when they say Best Film and Best British Film.
Yeah.
When that's, a British film can win Best Film but not Best British Film, which is very strange.
How do you mean?
Like,
it can win Best Film of anything but not Best British Film.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Which is strange.
I guess different judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that the BAFTAs have British films because it's like it means that they recognise the achievements of Britain.
Yes.
And I like Britain. That's why I voted for Brexit. Anyway. The 2001 Oscars were the Best Picture nominations were Chocolat, Erin Brockovich, Traffic, Gladiator, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Did Chocolat win?
No.
Was it Gladiator?
Gladiator.
Right, I see.
Right? Which, if you watched that recently, is good.
Yeah.
It's not that good.
It's not. Is it in the museum?
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a good epic, but I don't know if it's in the museum.
Right.
What did it offer that other films didn't offer? The Colosseum scenes, fine, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're as, well orchestrated and well constructed as the fight scenes in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in the museum? I'd have to look at other Colosseum films. Best director that year, Steven Soderbergh in Twice for Erin Brockovich in Traffic. You've also got Stephen Daldry for Billy Elliot and Ridley Scott for Gladiator alongside Ang Lee for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Steven Soderbergh won for Traffic.
I like Steven Soderbergh's films, so I mean, I haven't seen Traffic.
No. So Erin Brockovich?
Yes.
Would you have put that ahead of?
I don't remember it being like a particularly well astonishingly directed film.
Yeah.
In the same way that Crouching Tiger.
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger is clearly the product of someone's vision.
Right, exactly.
Whereas Erin Brockovich is is a good
procedural
biopic.
And of course, as we mentioned, it won Best Foreign Language Film for Taiwanese, despite the fact that the film's in Chinese Mandarin.
Right. But is that
Ang Lee is Taiwanese, I guess.
But is it money related as well? Maybe, I don't know.
It could be. The Oscars are a good benchmark for like what's good in film, but they're also
it's a good
flawed.
benchmark for what is popular in film. I would say
not necessarily.
Well, my favourite film of last year is not. It doesn't have
Widows.
a sniff.
Yeah.
No, not even Widows. You Were Never Really Here.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Widows as well.
Yeah.
Not a sniff.
Widows was my favourite film last year.
Right.
And it didn't get anything this year's Oscars.
No.
But I haven't seen many of the Oscar films.
Yeah.
Like Black Panther. Is that better than Widows? Almost certainly not. Almost certainly not.
But then, yeah, I think the Oscars should be almost read as a measure of popularity rather than a measure of inherent quality.
But popularity with a very specific group of people.
Middle-aged white men.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
It's not. If it was popularity, just to the box office.
Yeah.
And get Avengers: Infinity War, the Best Picture Oscar.
It's a good film.
It is very good. All right. Back to the point at hand here.
Mm-hmm.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's a wuxia film,
mm-hmm.
which you told me earlier. That's because that film degree is coming in handy.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah. Wuxia.
Again, disclaimer.
Yeah.
If we're mispronouncing wuxia, I apologize. I can only apologize.
Guest lecturer Chow Yun Fat said it was wuxia, but the background on wuxia.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rich history of martial arts fiction in China.
Yeah, so it's not just cinema, is it?
No, of course. Water Margin is a novel which is widely considered to be the first wuxia novel.
Right.
It is a portrayal of 108 heroes and their code of honor and willingness to become outlaws rather than serve a corrupt government.
Okay.
And it played an influential role in the development of Jinghu culture in later centuries.
Right.
Now, it's basically Confucianism and being like, be good, be nice to people, and a bit of Buddhism in there as well, was basically Chinese philosophy for a long time.
Yeah.
And wuxia is credited as being like a literary representation of the changing model, which became more individualistic.
Right.
I may not be explaining this
an
well.
individual moral code rather than a.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
So in a typical wuxia story, there's a male protagonist who experiences a tragedy. This is from Wikipedia.
Right.
A male protagonist experiences a tragedy such as the loss of a loved one and goes on to undertake several trials and tribulations to learn martial arts from different people, and at the end of the story he emerges as a powerful fighter few can equal. And he uses these abilities to show a code of jia which mends the ills of the Jinghu. For instance, which is something you recognise in many martial arts films.
Sure, yeah.
Someone
using their skills to overcome an evil.
Yeah, but like them learning those skills is usually a visual it's a metaphor for them overcoming their inner personal struggles.
Right.
Yes. The 8 common attributes of the jia are listed as benevolence, justice, individualism, loyalty, courage, truthfulness, disregard for wealth, and desire for glory. So it's kind of that like warrior monk kind of thing.
So Mubai would be a jia.
He would be. Right. But it's different from Confucianism as much as the individualism is an aspect. Whereas I think in Confucianism, you'd be more serving the society.
Right.
You'd be serving the government. But this is very anti-government.
Okay.
And like even in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you get a sense that there's corrupt officials and that Certé isn't, is a bit underhanded.
Yes. Yeah. There's although the way they are sort of happy to give a gift like the Green Destiny to Certé,
maybe Certé is a good guy.
But then the governor and it's there's definitely sort of systems which are oppressive that are presented within the film, and that's I think why Lo is presented as the opposite of that, and he's the representation of everything that Jen wants,
right? Yeah,
because she wants to break out of all those oppressive sort of society.
It's fine, you can have wealth and comfort, but you're going to be stuck in a system you don't want to be in, or you can live in poverty, essentially in the desert, but you'll be happy because you'll be someone you love.
Exactly.
The following is a list of skills and abilities that a typical fighter in a wuxia story possesses. And apologies for the mispronunciation of these, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Martial arts. You know what martial arts are?
Yes.
Weapons and objects. So swords, staffs, broadswords, spears, sabers, whatever it might be. Qinggong, which is a specific type of Chinese martial art in wuxia fiction, which is the one where they can fly, circumvent gravity, cover tremendous distances in a single stride.
Right.
Run on water, jump up trees, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nai Li, which is internal force or internal strength.
Okay.
Or Nai Gong, which is internal skill, which is like the ability to build up or cultivate inner energy known as Qi. So think of Dragon Ball Z, where they use like Kamehameha waves.
Right, yeah. I've never watched a single second of Dragon Ball Z.
But you're out big time. Energy beams, right? That kind of thing. Or also Dianju, which is touching acupuncture points.
Okay, so we see that in the film where Bo gets paralysed by Jay Fox.
Yeah.
And then gets reversed by Mu Bing.
It's a funny moment.
Yeah.
So it's the death grip, isn't it?
Right.
The 5-point death pinch or whatever.
Yes, in Kill Bill, which is the obviously the westernized version of that.
Yeah. Is it 12 points in Kill Bill? It's obviously like...
No, it's isn't it the 5 something?
I think it's 12 because it's like...
Right.
It's like, how would you ever pull that off?
Yeah. The 5... No, it's the 5 something exploding...
5-finger death punch.
No, that's a band.
Is it?
Yeah, 5-finger death punch is a band. Isn't it the something exploding heart?
The 5-point palm exploding heart technique.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I like Kill Bill probably fits a lot of these qualities, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's not a massive coincidence for this to be a massive, wuxia crossover movie, and then a few years later for Quentin Tarantino to go, oh, here you go.
I've always loved wuxia.
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's my quick potted history of wuxia in film.
Yeah.
And I think you can see a lot of those traits in other movies as well.
Absolutely. Well, The
Matrix, we mentioned it earlier, it fits a lot of those characteristics.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shares the...
despite it being based on Japanese sort of style films.
Manga,
yeah. Japanimation, I think the Wachowskis called it in the documentary.
Yeah, well, The Matrix especially, I think, is... it's an interesting contemporary of this film because the martial arts choreographer is Yuen Wu Ping. So he did The Matrix and he did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I think his influence on Western cinema after this is pretty undeniable because, The Matrix ended up being the benchmark for every action movie that had martial arts after this film.
Forever, even Shrek had
fine. And there are moments of what you would call bullet time in this film as well, in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. When people do sort of
amazing things, like jump in the air and
yeah. I do remember there being a spate of similar wuxia films following the success of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
right,
that clearly got a great deal more attention, in Western culture than they otherwise would have.
House of Flying Daggers.
House of Flying Daggers is
that?
One. I have seen it.
It's really good.
I really enjoy it. It's got Zhang Ji as well.
Yeah.
Is the lead role in that, I think, and she plays Jen in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I really like House of Flying Daggers, and it's probably even more mad than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, I remember about that is like the dancing scenes. They're spectacular.
Well, there's a dancing scene where she is like throwing
ribbons.
like ribbons to drum stuff, and there's also scenes where people are throwing, the titular flying daggers. They're throwing daggers at one another across fields, but they're like sort of curving round, and it's
amazing.
Yeah. There's also a scene in a bamboo forest which is like particularly amazing, where people are using they're like slicing lengths of bamboo into like sharpened points and throwing them like javelins at one another.
Mm.
And I think at one point the hero gets like pinned to the floor by like bamboo shards. So it's crazy. Like yeah.
I think Memoirs of a Geisha as well is often cited as being a very similar film.
That's another Zhang Ji film, right? She is the geisha in Memoirs of a Geisha, I believe.
There's a lot of themes at play, mate. A lot of themes at play, aren't there?
Yes.
I'm not talking about just the music. You've got feminism. It's a very feminist film.
Yeah, it's about women's emancipation from hierarchical, patriarchal systems.
Yeah, and I think the name of the movie, my research tells me, is based on a Chinese idiom, which essentially means hidden master, or someone who has great skill who is hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
I think the full phrase is something like, a rock could hide a crouching tiger.
Yeah.
And you never know where there might be a hidden dragon around the corner, right?
Yeah.
Which means that someone who you don't think has potential may well have potential.
Correct.
Such as the women in the film who turn out to be the best fighters.
Yeah.
Like the daughter of a rich governor who happens to be the greatest fighter who ever lived.
Mm.
That kind of thing. My research also tells me that there's a focus on the women's use of Aikido, which is a martial art where rather than being about like skill and outmaneuvering people, it's about delivering one blow. So you focus a big pole on the middle of their body and just strike them with it.
Yeah.
Because that's what a woman would do.
Because they would be mismatched in a
most
prolonged fight.
Right, exactly, yeah. So that's why they use Aikido in this.
Right.
Apparently. I think there's also an element of toxic masculinity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or a nod to that. So Li Mubei is just set on seeking revenge for his master's death. We know what's going to happen as soon as he's like, I only have to kill one more person.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's my last day on the job.
Right, exactly, yeah. And it's just because he's got this like honor system, because an honor to a dead man, by the way, rather than the woman who like obviously would do anything for him.
Yeah.
And he ends up dead. Jen tries to run from her duties and ends up denying herself what she wants.
Yeah.
So she kind of like doesn't hold up to her honor and ends up better off for it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Although she ends up potentially dead, but
well, yeah, but it's
she chooses to live free.
Right.
Live free or die.
Yeah.
Right.
Live free or die hard.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of student-teacher, master-student relationship stuff in it.
Yeah.
It's very Star Wars.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is that, Star Wars draws influence from samurai tales and samurai fables. So that's where, all the Jedi mythology comes from. There's a lot of, people being bound by honor and duty. Mubei and Shulin are
denying themselves happiness because of this weird honor.
Yeah, honor code that they have. And then a big theme that I would say is present in the film is just like being able to float around in that, isn't it?
Yep.
Just floating
about.
Yeah.
I think this is something I've learned myself.
Floating around.
No. I'm a big martial artist now.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if we've said it in this podcast, but the reason we're doing martial arts season is because you yourself are now a martial artist.
Yeah, man. When you were studying film, I was studying the blade. Let's be honest.
Yeah. You mean Blade, starring Wesley Snipes?
Yeah. Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I've been reading about fighting as well as doing it myself.
Yeah.
Because that's how you win fights, is by reading the most books.
Yeah. You've read Heart of a Fighter, I believe it's called.
A Fighter's Heart.
Fighter's Heart.
Yeah, and A Fighter's Mind.
Because you texted me excitedly saying that you must never have your own dad as your
right.
corner
This is an interesting finding.
Right.
In that the biggest predictor of death in a boxing match is having your father as your ringman.
Right.
Because he's less likely to throw in the towel.
It's because people are by the time they reach adulthood are so sick of spending time with their fathers.
Right.
They would rather do anything than sit in a chair next to them for 30 seconds.
So it's one of those books that taught me what I'm about to tell you now.
Right.
Which is that when they talk about master, like "Oh, I'll be your master. Will you be my master?"
Yeah.
Right. There's a thing in martial arts in South Asia, South Asia, where they do martial arts, where people who were born into poverty but showed potential as fighters would become essentially servants or slaves to masters who would train them how to fight, but would then make money from them fighting.
Right.
So you'd go and live in someone's dojo. And apologies if I'm getting this completely wrong, but this is how it's been told to me.
Isn't that essentially the same as a boxer having a manager or a trainer?
Sort of, but that you would have you basically give up your life. That's all you do. Okay. You live at this camp where you learn to fight, and your master decides everything for you.
Right.
And fans of Dragon Ball Z will note that Krillin has a girlfriend at one point.
Right.
And Master Roshi, who is a pervert in the show, he's like, "Oh no, I have to make sure she's good for you," and he's like, "Yeah, of course." And you're like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense," but actually, it does when you consider that the master makes all the decisions for the student.
Right.
So when they're like, "I need a master," they're really saying like, "I need someone who's going to look after me and make my decisions for me and will really guide me." And there's a certain amount of surrender to the master's will, which is why when she refuses to kneel, it's like she has no master.
Right.
Because she knows what that entails. It means living by your master's code and wearing their colours. And she refuses to do that because she's already broken out of one kind of code and refuses to get into another one, I think.
Sure.
Which is an interesting
perspective. No, it makes a lot of sense.
I think a Ronin is a samurai without a master.
Correct, yeah. So would that be Mubei or?
I think Mubei has a master.
Sete. Who is Mubei's master?
He's not seen. He dies at the hand of Jade
Right,
Dragon.
yeah, but he doesn't have one anymore. So is he a Ronin? Is that how that works?
No, because he's like he fucking loves the Wudang Mountain.
Right.
Wudang, by the way, have you heard that before? Wu-Tang. It's the same thing.
Right.
Wu-Tang Clan. Ain't nothing to fuck with. Wu-Tang really is the same thing.
Okay, I
it's
believe
just a different pronunciation.
Yeah.
All I said, Chris, I'm going to tell you what I would do.
Okay.
Because, I mean, a lot of people were saying to us, you know, we've heard you talk about wuxia.
Yeah.
And Wudang and all these sorts
Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. How would you survive in the movie? And I'm saying to them, here's the first point.
Okay.
Always use poison at all times because it's the only thing that kills people in this film. Other than Inspector Say.
Well, it's an honor thing though, right? Like people are...
A coward uses poison, right? Is what they say.
Yeah, it's the... is it Game of Thrones where they say poison is a woman's weapon or something like that?
Yeah.
I think that is based in a sort of wider, historical context. That course, as a sort of thing. And it probably ties into what you were saying about...
they're not being able to outfight them in a prolonged fight.
Right.
So,
and that is exactly why Jade Fox does what she does, isn't it? Because she knows that even despite the fact that she's stolen the Wudang manual, she
can't understand it.
Yeah, she can't translate it and she can't learn what she needs to learn.
I love when Jen says to her, like, even if I explained it to you, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah. Withering.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why she uses poison, right? So she uses poison because it's an indicator of her being lesser than. Yeah. Like within the film's context, that's what it's indicating, is that she is bad because she fights without honor.
Yeah.
Right? So are you saying Mubei should just sod honor and just fight with poison?
Just douse the green destiny in poison whenever you're using it.
Yeah.
And then if you cut anyone, they didn't die anyway.
I mean, I feel like if Mubei cuts anyone with the Green Destiny, they're going to be in trouble.
The Green Destiny cuts swords in half.
Yeah, exactly. What's that weapon that Shu Lin uses, which is just like a giant stick, like that?
A staff, isn't it?
No. It's like it's the size of a sword, but it looks like a metal rod that's had holes drilled into it.
Yeah, it's a staff.
Right. Okay.
And there's the one where she's like batting the Green Destiny away with it until like the right angle comes up.
Yeah, and like smashing concrete to pieces.
Yeah.
That's great. That
is so good.
Yeah. It's like a mace almost, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bludgeon, isn't it? But it goes back to that thing of being like, you can deliver one lethal blow with one thing.
Yeah.
It's good. This is a quick question. I didn't ask it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that the very lightweight nature of the fighting, because it's so well choreographed, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it lacks jeopardy?
So I think it has a sort of like dance-like quality that to some extent removes you from it. And what's interesting is that the film that we're covering next week, The Raid,
right, I was about to say
also has that.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether it's just a cultural thing in that, because it's what feels like ancient China.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as threatening as when it's like three men in a tenement building corridor that have machetes,
wearing like bulletproof vests,
right? And they're like swinging machetes at the main character in The Raid.
But it's not. I mean, contextually, it's not different. It's the same.
No,
it's 3-on-1, but there's something about like they'll throw a punch, but it's like they already know the punch is coming, so that they've done this like mid slap thing. It's like
One great bit is when Xu Lin punches Jen, but she like contorts around the fist, and she's like, "You've trained Wudang technique." That's amazing. Like, it's really good.
That's early on, right?
Yeah. It's when she first
then does a backflip off her leg or something.
Something like that. Well, and she keeps trying to fly, and Xu Lin's
pulling
like
her back down,
pinning her to the ground.
That's cool.
Yeah, all that stuff's great. I agree that it lacks a sort of physicality that you would get with something like The Raid or John Wick.
But that's all sound effects, surely. I mean, they're not really getting punched in either.
No, I don't think it is sound effects. I think it's like, to do with
frame, I guess. Yeah.
No, I think it's to do with like the physicality of, like, if people can fly, then it's sort of
lightweight.
It sort of takes you out of the idea that if you punch someone in the face in this world, that they're going to be like really hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas in The Raid, it's like, within the first 20 minutes, people have been having their arms chopped off and all sorts of shit. So
it's Dragon Ball Z again here.
Yeah.
Not often I get to talk about it.
Sure.
You must have seen like GIFs or something of it where they're just like,
right,
they're just like arms flying. They're just blur lines, and it's like that's most fights in Dragon Ball Z, and occasionally someone will break through that and get like one big punch.
Right.
So I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, it's great. I can see why you like it so much.
I don't know what you guys with it. Dragon Ball Z is a fine production.
I believe you.
Anyway, do you agree with use poison or don't?
Yes. Is it in contradiction with our rule to not change the motivations of the character because they want to tie themselves to honor?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. Jade Fox is the villain, and she uses. I think I call her Jade Dragon.
She uses poison, but she doesn't survive.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, there are only two people who die in the film, right?
Mubei and
three people. Sorry, so Jade Fox, Inspector Zion, Mubei.
Yeah,
and two of them die not through poison.
That's true.
One of them gets a big old blade in the head.
Yeah, but seems to.
She might have poisoned it before.
Yeah.
just belt and braces. Yeah. In fact, what you were saying about the martial arts a minute ago, the one moment for me where it has like a sense of real physicality is where Mubei deflects all the needles back at Jade Fox and they like explode out of her back. Yeah, that's like there's a shot of her like whole back exploding.
Do you know what's amazing? When the challenge comes to Inspector Tsai for the fight, and then he's just like sat with Bo, I think, just having dinner, and it's just like,
and
he just snatches it out of the air
with chopsticks.
Yeah, and Bo runs to the door. He's like, she's already gone.
Yeah, yeah,
so good.
I mean, my survival idea ties into what you were saying, which is just wear some armor for God's sake.
Yeah,
I mean,
but is that a lack of honor?
Two of the deaths that people suffer could have been prevented with rudimentary head or neck armor, right? And given how many people use edged weapons in the film and spiked weapons, it would be very sensible to make sure that you're wearing some kind of armor.
But is it an honor thing as well?
Well, this is it. It could
if
be.
If you meet someone in battle with a sword, in theory, you're saying just as a duel, you're saying if it's if you're right, if it's 100 people battle, it makes sense to defend yourself.
Right.
But if it's one-on-one, you're saying my swordsmanship is better than yours.
Well, what I was thinking was that it could fall foul of their sort of spiritual doctrine, because I would imagine that the robes that they wear are tied into the sort of spirituality that they believe in, right?
I don't know that necessarily.
I don't know that necessarily either, but I don't. That is what
It's a uniform.
Right, exactly. So I wonder if it contravenes that in any way. And also it could limit agility, right?
Yeah.
In terms
you
of
can't take off if you're wearing.
But then they don't exactly seem to be tied to the laws of physics, do they?
No, that's true.
So, but like if Inspector Zai was wearing a helmet, that could have saved his life. If Mubei was wearing a snood, an armored snood, that could have saved his life.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah,
I mean, for a blow dart, you could just wear a thick scarf.
Yeah, but then I wonder, she's got like a gunpowder.
Yeah, that's cool.
Fired, blow dart thing,
cannon thing. Yeah.
So I wonder if that would go. Is armor piercing blow darts?
Maybe. I don't know. I think you're right in theory, but I don't know whether it would contribute. The only exception is if it contravenes honor.
Yeah,
because they're very honorable. Like, why wouldn't they wear armor if there was an option to them?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
To take your Star Wars analogy,
although
whenever anyone goes into battle in Star Wars, they put helmets on.
Yeah, apart from the Jedi, and they all wear robes, which are tied into their spiritual doctrine.
That's true.
But then would it be like?
Well, my final one's for Mubei again.
Okay.
Suppose you're in war now, right? In 2019, and you had a weapon that you could just annihilate people with. I mean, like, you go into a village and they're all tied. It's not just like civilians. They all, they can fight.
They're warriors.
And you just point it at them and they just evaporate.
Right.
That's basically what happens with the Green Destiny.
Right.
Because he's so good with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it also appears that Jen is able to use it properly. Yeah. So if you have a WMD, do not give it to people who aren't you. Yeah,
I guess so. It's like, it's the fact that it gets put on display, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just...
And he's like showing off. He's like, oh, you know, it's like if I was like, oh, I've developed this weapon, Chris, that kills everyone that comes near it. Mm-hmm. And I've been using it to kill people for like years, and everyone knows I kill people with it. Yeah. And you're like, okay, yeah. So I'm going to give it to my friend. And I take it to the friend's house, and the friend's like, oh, I give it to you, right? And then I leave, and then you have friends over, oh, did you see this weapon that kills everyone? And then it goes missing. Yeah. Right? You'd
be annoyed.
I would be annoyed. And you would be annoyed. And then the whole world would be annoyed because now someone's got a weapon of mass destruction. Yeah. And it is a weapon of mass destruction.
It does seem like it, yeah. It can cut through pretty much any weapon.
Yeah. It can cut through a clay pot. Yeah. Down the middle. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I'd do.
So don't give away powerful weapons if
you're giving up, right?
Yeah.
Chuck it in the sea.
Well, that's essentially what he does towards the end, right?
Yeah, but he does that in a situation where it can still be reclaimed.
Yeah, yeah. So what he should do is throw it off the cliff that Jen dives off at the end or something.
Well, not even that. Just when he goes to see Shulin at the beginning and he's like, take this to Satei. Yeah. She should have said, no, Satei doesn't need this. Yeah, this is a dangerous weapon.
Yeah. Just take it and bury it.
Yeah. Bury it right here.
Yeah.
Do it in my garden. Then we know where it is.
Just hold it like perpendicular to the ground and drop it through, and it will never stop falling.
Yeah. Some guy in like Australia just gets it out of the bum.
And so why is that helpful in a survival sense? Because it prevents loss of life from it being misused.
Yeah, lots of people die from it.
Right.
Like the Green Destiny is the problem in the film.
Yeah. No, I don't. Does it kill anyone though? I don't think it does. But the act of someone else having it, right? The bomb doesn't go off, but
someone's
because
got
the bomb is missing, people die.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Con Air, isn't it?
Right.
Not
it's
Con Air.
Exactly
It's not Con Air. It's
Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow, right? Yeah. John Travolta.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it is.
is exactly like Broken Arrow.
Jen is John Travolta.
Yeah, and the Green Destiny is the nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Well,
on that note,
if you thought that we wouldn't get a new avenue of analysis about this film, then you are wrong.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say we go off on tangents, but I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think that's welcome.
Mm.
Thank you for listening to this podcast about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Thank you.
Next week, as we've mentioned repeatedly, we're covering Gareth Evans' movie The Raid.
Yes.
From 2011?
Yeah, I think so. It's in some territories, it's The Raid Redemption.
Yeah. Not to be confused with The Raid 2, which is the sequel to The Raid.
Yes.
Watch that as well, though. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Not as good as The Raid, though.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch it on... Probably... It's not on anything Netflix, is it?
I can't remember. It might be. If not, you can...
Look, I'm not your mum.
For a pittance.
Find it wherever you want.
Yeah. It's a great film, though.
Yeah. Like, it's worth having.
Imagine Die Hard.
Have you got a copy of it?
No, I don't have a copy.
I'm surprised, because you have a copy of most
I think I might have a copy at my parents' house.
All right.
Yeah.
Because you've got, like, you buy Blu-rays of everything.
Not of everything.
And then don't
That's
watch
the
them.
point. I don't buy Blu-rays of everything.
But your Blu-ray collection is all cellophane wrapped.
That's not true. I shamefully do have a lot of Blu-rays
90%.
that I haven't
90%.
watched yet.
But the thing is, I was thinking about this. And I think about it a lot. Because it's like, you know when you have like a book collection, and you like, because you want to show off,
right.
When people come around, you'll be like, oh yes,
yeah.
But
they're not out.
That's what I mean, yeah. It's like, there's not even that excuse.
But then, I should make clear, I have maybe like 20 Blu-rays.
Come on, 20,000. You've got more Blu-rays than I've got, like, T-shirts.
I don't think that's true.
I think
it might be true. You don't have that many clothes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have that many. Like some people, you see like people posting on Reddit and they go, "Oh, this is my DVD collection."
Yeah.
And it's like a whole wall of
yeah. Which is
That's
insane.
nothing like what.
No, I'm saying I don't own a Blu-ray.
Right.
I've got like 4 Blu-rays in my house.
You
and
do
they're
own
yours.
2. You do own some Blu-rays because I bought you John Wick 1 and
That's
2.
true. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But okay, aside from ones you've bought me or ones I'm currently borrowing from you,
Yeah.
I don't own a Blu-ray.
That's
and then I do. I own The Pacific on Blu-ray.
Right. Well, there you go.
Never watched it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah. No emails because we did them last week.
Yeah.
And we batch record them.
Yes.
Should have thought about that. Oh, well, there's an email here from
Clarence.
M. Kermode who says, "Oh, you guys are doing amazing, and
Yeah.
I'm jealous." Oh,
Thank you very much for listening. HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com if you would like to email, or you can get in touch on Twitter @HowToSurvivePod. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It would be most welcome. And thank you very much. We will see you next week
for the raid.
And until then,
ni hao. Ni hao means hello, but that works just as well because it's the only Mandarin Chinese word I know.